Good morning again. Children, in our last slide, we have seen that Albert Einstein was unemployed after his graduation from the university, and he got the job of a technical officer in a patent office in Bern. And there, while supporting other inventors, he was making his own inventions too. So this we have seen up till now. Now next is on one of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. So in the year 1905, Einstein published his first paper. It was about special theory of relativity. In this publication, it was written that the measurement of time and distance is not absolute. It depended on something else. So, indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So, according to this theory of relativity, if there are two clocks and both are moving, they will not show the same time. One clock will move faster than the other. So, from this followed the world's famous formula which describes the relationship between mass and energy. That is E is equal to mc square. This one, E is equal to mc square. In this mathematical equations, E stands for energy, m for mass, and c for the speed of the light in a vacuum, about 3 lakh kilometer per second. So this theory of relativity gave us this basic formula of physics. E is equal to mc square. E stands for energy, m for mass of the object, and c for the speed of the light in vacuum. Vacuum means where there is no air, and the speed of light in vacuum is almost 3 lakh kilometer per second. To put it into simpler words, Einstein said, here Einstein gave a very nice example. He said that when you sit with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. On the other hand, when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it seems like 2 hours. That is relativity. So, a person would feel the timing differently. So, while Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. So, unraveling means starting to fade. So, though he was solving the complicated problems in physics for the world, his personal life started becoming problematic and difficult. He started to fail in his personal life. So Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. Why? We will see that. So Albert Einstein wanted to marry Mileva Marek soon after he finished his studies, but his mother, Pauline Einstein, was against this. So why Pauline Einstein was against this? She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. So Pauline thought that Mileva Marek, who was 3 years elder to Albert Einstein, was very old, and she was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. So Pauline thought that Mileva was very intelligent to be a wife, and she told Einstein that Mileva was also like a book and was similar to him. As his mother was against this marriage, he cancelled his wedding with Mileva. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. So Albert Einstein married Mileva Marek in the year 1903 and they had 2 sons. But a few years later the marriage flattered. Flattered means became weak. So their marriage failed. Mileva meanwhile was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming as unhappy housewife. As Mileva Marek was a very intelligent. Being a housewife, she could not cope up with her ambitions. She could not fulfill her ambitions, and so she started becoming unhappy. So after a year of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. So Mileva was unhappy from this marriage. She could not fulfill her career dreams. So finally in the year 1919, after prolonged fighting, both of them separated. So Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. So Albert Einstein married the second time, he married his cousin Elsa. So Einstein's new personal chapter considered with his rise to world fame. So at the time Einstein married Elsa, another thing considered that it was Einstein's rise to world fame. So now from here he became popular. So Einstein became world famous. Everyone acknowledged him as a great scientist. So in 1915 he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. In the year 1915 he published one more paper which was based on general theory of relativity, which gave a new interpretation to gravity. So an eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. So here in the year 1919 there was a solar eclipse which proved that Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity was correct. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. So because he had this analytical mind, he calculated each and everything. Fixed star would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspaper proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Deflected means changed direction because it hit something. So Albert Einstein had calculated in the year 1915 that in the year 1919 there would be a solar eclipse. So due to it, the apparent position of the stars would change to some extent. His calculation was accurate. Why? Because he had an analytical mind. So it was announced that Albert Einstein's work was a scientific revolution. So Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. The Nobel Prize was based on the will of the famous Swedish scientist, a scientist who belonged to Sweden, Alfred Nobel. It was established in 1895 and the first Nobel Prize was given in the year 1901. So Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in the year 1921. He was showered with honor and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. He was honored and was invited to various places all over the world. Even the press praised him. When the Nazis came, so here in 1933, when Germany came under the power of Nazis, the famous Nazi ruler was Adolf Hitler. You all must have heard the name of Adolf Hitler. At the time, Einstein left Germany and shifted to United States of America forever. When? In 1933, when Germany came under the power of Nazis. So 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. In an uproar means very upset. Why they were upset? After 5 years, the Germans discovered the process of nuclear fission, the process through which nuclear bombs or atomic bombs are made. The process was prepared in Berlin. Due to this, all the physicists in American were upset as they feared misuse of the technology. So many of them had fled from fascism just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So there were many scientists who escaped to America because of fascism. Fascism, what is fascism? Fascism was a dictatorial concept which was started in Europe from Italy by the rule of Benito Mussolini. So all the scientists were afraid that the Nazi could misuse the atomic bomb. So next we will see, at the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd of August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. So Albert Einstein was requested by a colleague, and so he wrote a letter to the President of America Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd of August 1939, in which he warned him that the atomic bomb which was developed by Germany was very powerful. If one of these bombs exploded on any port, it would not only destroy the areas, but also it would destroy the surrounding territory. So this shows Einstein's humanitarian quality. He wanted good for the people. He wanted peace in all over the world. That is why he wrote his concern to the President of America and warned him about all. His words did not fail to have an effect. Albert Einstein's letter had an impact on Franklin D. Roosevelt. So the Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. So the Americans developed the atomic bomb secretly and dropped it on two cities of Japan. You must have heard about this incident while learning history, and the name of that two cities were Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the Germans had just developed the atomic bomb. They did not use it on any country, but America did. So Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. So lot of destruction took place and Einstein was shaken completely. So this time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. So missive means letter, especially long and official. So he wrote an official letter to the United Nations organization. So in it, he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. So Albert Einstein proposed to form a world government, but this letter did not bear any fruit. Not fruitful for him. So, but over the next decade, Einstein got even more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildups and popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. So, for another 10 years, Albert Einstein was involved in world peace. He was involved in politics, and his agenda was to stop the countries involved in collecting arms and developing weapons. He campaigned for world peace and democracy. His main agenda was world peace and freedom of people. So, when Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. So, here, visionary means a person who can think about the future in an original and intelligent way. So, Einstein could foresees the future. When he died in 1955 at the age of 76, the world celebrated him as a visionary. He was a world citizen and a scientific genius too. So here this chapter ends. Thank you for watching and listening this attentively. And here I have put some quotation written by Albert Einstein. Please read and follow it in your life. And this is the message for you all. Thank you.